Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content and hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. Week 2 of the college football season is basically wrapped up. It's basically in the books. We're not completely done yet. We got a few late games left, but the vast majority of the important games are through. And I just got off Alabama at the voice of college football to do the Alabama post game. So sorry I was a little late after the 7:30 games to go live, but do appreciate everybody who is already in the chat. We've got Stephen Cherry in the chat saying, check it in for more SEC propaganda. I do have the Alabama hat on, just came over from Alabama at the voice of college football, and I'm thrilled with Alabama's performance today. So we're rocking the Alabama hat right now. We got Godfather of the SEC saying roll Tide, and we got Caden, the Diesel Freak, saying roll Buckeyes, roll, which they did roll today. But we're going to get into all of that and more, and might even open up the phone lines at the end of the show. Can't be live too late. I'm going to have to go to bed sometime. But do appreciate everybody for being here. We're going to get to all of it and more. Might even open up the phone lines for a little bit at the end of the show if I haven't been live too long. But Friday night. I do want to start off with Friday night really quickly. None of the games were good. None of the games were good at all. You look at Louisville beating James Madison. This was like your only semi-competitive game. And I actually think James Madison had a legit shot to win this game until they made a big mistake, turning the ball over in like the third quarter. I think it was like a muff kick or something like that. I can't exactly remember, but they turned it over. I remember in like the third quarter, it completely blew the game, and then Louisville scored. I think it was like they fumbled in the end zone. That's what occurred. And Louisville ended up winning 28-14, but not an impressive performance for Louisville. Granted, James Madison is a competent, group of 5 team, but not a great performance by Louisville. Northwestern did what they were supposed to do against Western Illinois. They're really bad, though. Maryland beat Northern Illinois not too impressively. And then Boise beat Eastern Washington. But let's move on to what everybody cares about. Let's move on to Saturday's games. Nevada beating Sac State, okay? No one really cares there. UNLV beating UCLA. Now, I'm not saying that I had a perfect week picking games, but I did do very well on my picks this week. Now, next week, I'll probably do trash. That's just kind of how this thing works. Usually you have a good week, then you have a really bad week. But I did pick a lot of games right. And UNLV was one of those. I picked UNLV. UNLV knocks off UCLA 30-23. So I backed Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen, not that impressive, right? So far in his UNLV tenure, almost lost to Idaho State week 1. But then he turns around and gets a win over UCLA. Now, you would say, hey, that's really impressive, right? But UCLA looks bad. Like, they are almost looking like Purdue level bad in the Big Ten. Not a good team. Nico made a colossal mistake going out to UCLA. And Deshaun Foster, the head coach for UCLA, it's just not looking good for him either. I don't really see any world where he's going to be able to turn this thing around. Obviously, it's still early. It's still early, in the season. And we've seen remarkable comebacks. We've seen teams start out 0-6 and then end the season 6-6. But UCLA is just looking like a trash team. They look horrible. And UNLV won. And I'm glad I picked UNLV. But moving on from that, Ohio State, I have to talk about Ohio State. We've got Stephen Cherry here. We've got Caden. We've got Hummus here. Appreciate you being here, Hummus. But this is all I'm going to say about Ohio State. You played Grambling and you destroyed them. We all knew that was going to happen. So good job, Ohio State. Number 1 team in the country, looking like the number 1 team in the country against, as some people would say, the Little Sisters of the Poor, a really bad team. Grambling's not good. 70-0. So good job for Ohio State. Good job for Julian Saying, besides just one pick. But Ohio State was very good today. I don't think anybody was expecting anything short. So moving on from the Buckeyes, we got Penn State with a 34-0 win over Florida International. And this game just completely validates, right, that Ohio State should be number 1 and Penn State should be number 2 because Penn State didn't win by as much. I think what validates it is that Ohio State beat Texas and Penn State has not played anybody with a pulse yet. That's why Ohio State jumped. But I just think it's funny, right? Some people would use that as an excuse, too. Penn State, they did what they were supposed to do. Not the most impressive win in the world, but, hey, they held Florida International to 0. So good for them. Good win for Penn State. LSU beating Louisiana Tech 23-7. not good. Not an impressive performance from LSU. I mean, obviously they played a tough opponent last week. You could say that could possibly be chalked up to why, they struggled today. Plus, they got a big game coming up next week, which, by the way, the team that they're going to be facing choked today, which we'll talk about that later. But LSU with a 23-7 win, just not that impressive. I'm sorry. Everybody's hyping up LSU now, and I'm not going to lie, the team LSU beat didn't look good today either. So we're going to have to see as time goes on how all this stuff shakes out. It's still so early. 2 games is not enough of an indicator to completely determine whether teams are elite, trash, good, mediocre, mid, whatever you want to call it. We got a lot more we got to find out. LSU, not the best performance today, but a win is a win. Georgia beat Austin Peay. Again, win is a win. Was this impressive, though? Not really. You won 28-6 against Austin Peay, an FCS team. Not very good from Georgia. And I've seen a lot of Georgia fans defend this performance. Not that great. I'm not impressed by Georgia at all whatsoever. I mean, you got to do better than that, right? I mean, 28-6 win. They usually win games like this 60-0. So we'll see if Georgia's legit. They got a lot of tough games starting next week. They got a tough game next week. So we'll see if Georgia's legit, but not a great performance today. Miami beat Bethune easily, not surprising. This game right here, Oregon, Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy is cooked. Mike Gundy is toast. I have a hard time seeing any world where Mike Gundy turns this thing around at Oklahoma State. And I hate it. A lot of people hate Mike Gundy, for a lot of reasons. But Mike Gundy, he's had a great tenure at Oklahoma State. There's a lot of qualities that you can like about Mike Gundy. It's been a part of my basically entire collegiate football viewing experience. I like with Kirk Ferentz, Kyle Whittingham, Pat Narduzzi, etc., the long tenure guys, right? So it's like Gundy. I like Gundy, all right? But he's cooked because 3-4 years ago, the guy was competing for conference championships. And now last year they went 3-9. And this year they're getting beat by Oregon 69-3. And I understand that now some people are wanting to really, really hype up Oregon and say that Oregon's legit and Dante Moore is legit and that they're fantastic. But I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if Oregon's that good yet. Oregon might be that good because, by golly, was this an impressive performance? But I don't know, man. Oklahoma State is legitimately trash. Like, legitimately. They are horrible. They are one of the worst Power 4 programs this year. They're that bad. I mean, I watched a healthy amount of this game because I was actually impressed with how bad Oklahoma State really was. And we got Stephen Cherry chiming in saying Oregon is better this year. They might be. They legitimately might be. And we'll find out later on in the season when they, like everybody else, is going to start playing legitimately good opponents. But like I said, you can look at this game and say this was the most impressive performance of any team today, just based off the score, just based off expectations of the score. I think Oklahoma State was like a 28-point dog, something in that neighborhood, and they lost by 65. So Oregon was absolutely incredible in this game. They could do no wrong. And again, Dante Moore looking very good. But it's just a little premature to just go in and crown, like I'm seeing some people online say, could Oregon be the best team in college football? They might be. But I'm not even close to their saying that. I'm not even going to be anywhere close to saying that. We need to see a lot more from Oregon. Again, very impressive performance against Oklahoma State. And yeah, the more-to-more combination. That's like an attorney line right there, an attorney company or whatever you want to call it, a hotline or something. More and more, But still, I don't know, man. It's rough for Oklahoma State. Legitimately, if you're a Pokes fan, once Pickens died, yeah, it's sad there. I mean, Gundy was good for a long time there, but it just looks like his tenure at Oklahoma State, unless some dramatic turnaround occurs, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a bad closure to his long Oklahoma State tenure. Texas beat San Jose. Arch Manning, 5 touchdowns. Good for Arch, good for Texas. I mean, what else can you say? Clemson beat Troy. Clemson beat Troy 27-16. But if anybody was paying attention, which I'm sure everybody in the chat was paying attention because we're like college football diehards here. Clemson was losing this game 16-0. So I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it was a hangover from the loss. I don't know what was going on because honestly, I did not check a lick of this game until they started coming back when they started playing better. So I don't know if there were mistakes made. I don't know if they just were lethargic, but they started out this game dangerously bad to the point where they could have lost. I legitimately was concerned when I saw 16-0. And like I said, right when I turned it on, Clemson started playing good. So they got to win. Dabo cannot be happy. I've not seen his presser. I mean, it's literally impossible to watch every single coach's presser and every single, like what's going on around college football. There's just so much going on, especially, you got to watch Alabama. I'm doing the Alabama post-game shows with Coach Moog and Jackson Johnson and, and all that kind of stuff. Watching Indiana. I'm watching so many games, so many teams. So I can't, definitively watch every ounce of every game and know what's going on. So I don't know what happened here with Clemson. If there's any Clemson fans in chat that'd like to chime in and let me know, or anybody that watched the Clemson game. But I was legitimately concerned for Clemson. Are they good? Are they a good team? Are they going to be able to win the ACC? Are they going to be able to make the playoffs? These are questions that will be answered. But so far, I'm underwhelmed with Clemson. Kay Klubnik, I believe, threw an interception as well. So not great. Clemson's got a lot of improving to do. Illinois Duke. Now, this game was probably the most hyped game of the noon window, and for a time, it was kind of delivering, but Duke fell apart, man. Duke fell apart in the second half. And I will say, there was a couple bad calls. I remember watching Duke fans were mad. I can't remember. I've seen so much football today that I don't exactly remember specifically right now what it was. But there was a really bad call. There was something in the late second quarter, early third quarter. But at the end of the day, it would not have mattered at all whatsoever. Duke was outmatched. Illinois is good. They got a massive showdown coming up in a couple weeks too with Indiana. So they have delivered in their one test that they had before that game. I mean, Altmaier looked good. The defensive line looked good. And they were getting pressure on Mensa. I mean, Duke, I think's an okay team and showed out pretty well. I mean, when I say an okay team, I'm talking about for the ACC. They're okay. I mean, they're not a great team at all, but they're okay at best. They tried, but Illinois just dominated them by the end. I do agree with this. By Stephen Cherry. Notice that Illinois struggled to run the ball, which could help Indiana. We'll see when that game comes. I cannot wait for that game, obviously. But Illinois looked good in this game. I can't say that validates them as a playoff team or that they're going to be a top 10 to 15 team all year, but this was a good performance for Illinois. They answered a lot of questions, but they still have questions. Moving on, oh my Lord. Up to this point, every game that's happened, I picked correct. By the way, I have not stressed that, but I have picked correct. This game I got wrong. Arizona State at Mississippi State. I picked the Sun Devils. I thought they'd get it done. Now, I only picked them to win by 7. I thought Mississippi State would play them close because it's at night, cowbells, Davis Wade Stadium. Mississippi State, some people were thinking they're going to be better this year. Well, Mississippi State is better this year, but my goodness, Arizona State gave this game away. I don't know if people were watching this game because probably most people were watching Oklahoma, Michigan, and I was watching Oklahoma, Michigan, but I was watching this game too. I kept flipping back and forth. Oh my goodness, Arizona State was down 17-0. They looked bad, but then they just completely turned it around. We're playing great football. They tied the game up, and then they take the lead. They had this 9-minute drive where they start on their own 4. And they go all the way down the field. But then they get stopped at the 1 by Mississippi State. And they decide to go for a field goal. They could have gone for it, but they decided to kick the field goal, which I thought might have been a good decision by Kenny Dillingham because Mississippi State had not scored in that second half. And I'm like, well, Arizona State probably will stop them. So field goal is a good decision. It's kind of crazy seeing a team kick an 18-yard field goal. I honestly don't remember the last time a team kicked an 18-yard field goal because most of the time when a team is at the 1, what do? They go for it. If it's 4th and goal at the 1, you're going to try to sneak it in or run something, right? But Arizona State is kicking a field goal at the 1. They hit it. They're up 20-17. And then Arizona State's defense, that was elite all second half, just completely folds on that final drive for Mississippi State. Shapen had multiple good throws. Arizona State was playing prevent defense, and then there was miscommunication in the secondary, and Mississippi State gets a touchdown with 30 seconds left to win. And then Leavitt throws a pick. Throws a pick on the final little drive that Arizona State was trying to win, and then the game's over. And when you look at a game like this, we got Stephen Cherry. I'm not trying. I don't want to make Stephen Cherry throw up right now. But this can go for the Big Ten, too. Look at Illinois Duke, right? These type of games. So I'll use both examples to just stress that I'm not just glazing SEC here. But, and honestly, they're not one-to-one comparisons. But you take, like, Illinois Duke. Illinois is the better team in that game, right? They're favored by, like, 2 against the ACC, right? And they end up winning by 25. So it's like the ACC is not very competitive, right? But then you take this game. Arizona State, it's not, again, a not exact one-to-one comparison, but Arizona State is the favored team. But they're from the weaker conference. 6.5-point favorites to win, which is already a pretty low spread for a team ranked 12th in the country. But you go on the road and play a bottom dweller SEC team, and you lose. And that's just terrible. That shows you the strength of the Big Ten and the SEC, the amount of money that they have. They even showed a stat in like the Alabama-UL Monroe game, which I'll get to Alabama, where Alabama, the amount of money they bring in per year, like $280 million or something like that. I don't know. It's a crazy amount. And UL Monroe, it's like $18 million. The gap is just so wide. And obviously the gap is not as wide for Arizona State, Mississippi State, but there's still a gap. The Big 12's behind. This is one of your playoff contenders. This is one of your conference title contenders, and they lose to a bottom dweller SEC team. That's just bad. It's a terrible look. This is a bad look for the Big 12. Bad look. And it sucks. Like, I picked Arizona State. I was pulling for Arizona State. Not like heavily or anything. But, I like Leavitt. I like their team. Pretty cool. Whatever. But, I mean, it's just disastrous for the Big 12. It looks awful. The number 12 ranked team. Mississippi State won 2 games last year. And I understand they brought in some good players. But and you got Stephen Cherry mentioned that they stormed the field, which I don't blame him for storming the field. Because they hadn't done anything in a while. But, I mean, I kind of get your point, though, Steven. It's like Mississippi State, SEC, right? And, like, you're storming the field. But, I mean, it just, like, to me, when I look at Arizona State, that it's a game you're supposed to win. I'm going to get to that, Hummus. I'm going to get to that. Absolutely. Just the Big 12, not looking good. It's not a good league. They don't have great teams. It sucks. But they don't. All the Big 12 defenders, I don't understand these Big 12 defenders. These guys like, oh, my gosh, the Big 12 is disrespected, and we're the best conference and all that. And it's like, no, you're not, dude. You're not even close. Like, I hate it. I liked it when the Big 12 was more competitive, but they're not anymore. They're not. They lost their good programs, and now they're weak, and they don't have a brand. And now these results are happening. You got these ranked teams. You got Kansas State losing to garbage teams. You got Arizona State can't even beating a bottom dweller Mississippi State team. It's bad. It's just a horrible look. So Arizona State, they're still probably going to have a solid year, I'm guessing, in the Big 12. But your supposed, one of your top teams, ranked 12th in the nation, can't even beat Mississippi State. It's terrible. Florida. Losing to South Florida. Now, is South Florida legit? Are they? Because we saw them beat Boise last week, right? They completely floored Boise, which Boise ended up turning around and having a great performance this week against Eastern Washington. But so maybe Boise's not terrible. So South Florida does that, and then they beat Florida. Now, I understand that people are going to be like, well, Florida was looking ahead to next week's game, but I don't know. I watched a healthy amount of this game. South Florida looked good, like legitimately good. I don't want to give too much hype to South Florida, like unwarranted hype. Like this team is legit and they're, going to make the playoffs. No. I'm not doing that. But I'm just telling you, Byron Brown looks good. And the amount of pressure they got on Lagway was honestly impressive. I don't know completely if it was lack of effort from Florida. I can't say. or again, looking ahead to LSU, I can't say. I didn't watch all of this game or even half of it, but I saw enough to just be very impressed with South Florida. They should be ranked. Now, whether they're ranked or not, they should be ranked. They probably are going to be ranked this week. And they got a big showdown next week. If they somehow complete the trifecta, they play Miami next week, I believe. They beat them too. Oh, my goodness. I don't think that's going to happen necessarily. I'm not picking that game. I'll have my week 3 predictions, whether in a video or with a live stream, probably with Will and D next week. So stay tuned for that. But I will be doing my week 3 picks. I'm not picking that game right now. But I'm just saying, if South Florida beats Miami too, that would be one of the most incredible 3-0 starts to a season ever. They would have so much confidence going into the American Conference, slate. Like, man. But I don't know, South Florida, like one of the biggest stories so far this season, man. And Florida, man, just Billy Napier, all the goodwill. And that's a good point, Hummus. Like I said, I'm not picking South Florida in that game. I'm just saying if they won, it'd be incredible. But absolutely, that's a good assessment for sure. Because Lagway doesn't have that ability, right? Like Beck. But still, you never know. South Florida's got a lot of confidence right now. But Lagway and Florida, like all of the goodwill that they built up last season, gone. It's history. Napier, his job is not like on ice as of yet again or anything like that, but it's just bad for Napier. It's bad for Florida. Because you saw headlines, they were like highest ranking for Florida since like 2020 or whatever year it was. Like Napier's got Florida back. They're competitive. They can win the SEC maybe, at least make the championship game. The playoffs are in play. And then this. That's going to be hard to come back from. Like the SEC is already tough as it is. You can't lose a game to South Florida. Now maybe Alabama, their loss to Florida State will wake them up the rest of the year. Maybe Florida's loss to South Florida will wake them up the rest of the year, and Florida still has a great year. Ohio State used the Michigan loss to win the playoff, the championship last year. You never know. I can use a million examples. But Florida, I'm not sold and as confident on Florida now. We'll see what they do next week. Big game for them next week, but thoroughly underwhelmed with Florida. Cannot believe they actually lost to South Florida. That's crazy. One of the biggest upsets so far this season. Just unreal. Now, Florida's rival, Florida State, took care of business. Obviously, East Texas A&M is not as good as South Florida, but 77-3. Florida State looks good. Again, don't want to crown them too early. Don't want to say that they're legit and all that, and they're going to make the playoffs. Again, it's way too early to be saying any of that stuff. That's why I'm not committing to it. I'm not. But at the same time, Florida State looks really, really good. And a performance like that against East Texas A&M, a 77-3 win, is only going to help their case more than hurt. Now, the headline game of the week and the headline game of the night in the 7:30 window was by far the only ranked game of the week, Oklahoma and Michigan. I don't know if more people picked Michigan to win this game or not, but it kind of seems like a lot of people pick Michigan to me. Now, obviously, I know a lot of people that like the Big Ten. So, I even though I don't live in Big Ten country and I'm kind of more in ACC, SEC country down here, a lot of people that I know, I just more online anyway, seem like they picked Michigan to win this game, including Will and D. My good buddy Will and D picked Michigan. And I know why. He even kind of was trying to sway me to pick Oklahoma. Not like he was trying to sway me, but like when Will makes a pick, sometimes I got to reconsider my brain. Like, hey, maybe Will's got a point here. Michigan's O-line, D-line, it's going to be better than Oklahoma's. The reason that I did not pick Michigan to win this game, and I was so adamant about not picking Michigan in this game, is Bryce Underwood. And I was right. Absolutely right. Bryce Underwood is a true freshman. Did he look good tonight? No, not at all. So you're going on the road. You're playing a program that's clearly improved. Oklahoma looked better than Michigan did in week 1. everyone was kind of just glossing over that New Mexico game, right? Like, oh, Michigan. They didn't look all that good against New Mexico, but they'll be fine. All right, Michigan drops 1 spot for that crummy performance against New Mexico, whereas Indiana falls 3 spots for looking bad against Old Dominion. Okay, I just have to throw that out there. I don't really agree with that, but that's just the way that it is. Michigan did not look good against New Mexico. But I don't understand why so many people pick Michigan. I don't. I get the lines of scrimmage. I get the talent. But Bryce Underwood, to me, being a freshman, that was my concern. And that's why I did not pick Michigan. I picked Oklahoma. And Oklahoma should have won this game by more. And I'm probably making Stephen, Cherry, and Troy and Hummus really happy right now. And Rough Rider Returns. Appreciate you being here at Rough Rider Returns, because I know you're a Sooners fan. But I'm not saying all that for y'all's benefit, even if it is making you guys really happy, awesome. But Oklahoma, vastly improved looking team in week 1. They started playing better late down the stretch. Mateer looks good. Mateer is not a perfect player, and I am concerned about the longevity of Oklahoma's season because of the fact that Mateer could get hurt because he runs a lot, and that always is a concern. And I don't think they have the greatest run game, and Mateer sometimes throws bad passes. I mean, he threw a risky one late. But Oklahoma should have won this game by more. They should have won by a lot more than they did. This score is not indicative of anything to me. 24-13, Oklahoma should have won this game by 25. They dominated the game. But they kept making stupid mistakes that kept Michigan in the game. Missed field goal, bad calls. Yeah, Oklahoma bullied Michigan. And what's going to blow my mind, Hummus, is there are going to be people, especially Michigan fans, that are going to defend this performance and say, oh, we weren't that bad. We were competitive the whole time. We were there till the end. No, Oklahoma kept Michigan in the game. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong, but I don't think I am. And if the chat disagrees and I am seeing it wrong, let me know. But I saw a team in Oklahoma that should have won by a lot more than they did. I saw an Oklahoma team that had their best performance since Lincoln Riley left. Dominance here. This was a really good game for Oklahoma. And I know it was at home. And I don't want to hype up Oklahoma too much because their schedule is brutal. It's going to be very hard for them to have a good year. They got a brutal schedule. But this was a really good-looking performance. Michigan did not look good. It just did not look good. Now, we'll see what happens with Michigan. I don't think their schedule's that hard. I don't think. I've heard a lot of people say their schedule's really easy and that they'll make the playoffs even if Bryce Underwood wasn't all that good and, they're guaranteed to beat Ohio State. Michigan should not have beaten Ohio State last year based off the season they had, but they somehow did, so you never know. They could do it again. But with mistakes like tonight, Bryce Underwood just blowing tons of passes, they didn't run the ball very well. Defense was all right, but I don't know, man. Michigan was not impressive tonight. Not a great performance at all. And like I said, the schedule might save them because I do know that their schedule's not that hard. And I'm not trying to lay in on them too hard because, I like a lot of Michigan fans too that are in my chat, just like I like my Buckeye guys. I appreciate you, Steven, Troy, Hummus. Burks is always here. We got Michigan guys over here as well. John D. Adam, appreciate all you guys that show up. I don't want to trash Michigan too hard. I just was disappointed because I considered picking them because I thought the talent. But I just kept going back to Underwood. I'm not sold on Underwood right now as a guy that's ready to play high-level football. He might be good in a year or two, but it's really hard for a true freshman to come in right out of the gate and be good. That's why you have redshirt years. That's why you don't play. So, I don't know. It's just the way that it is for me. I was not impressed with Michigan. This was an ugly performance for them. And the score is not indicative of how the game really was. And Bryce Underwood's got to get a lot better. His final stat line was abysmal. I remember at one point he was like 8 of 23. And I understand he was under a lot of duress, but I thought Michigan's offensive line was that good. It's supposed to be. But I didn't see it tonight. So either Oklahoma's vastly improved or Michigan, is not good at all. Because if Oklahoma is vastly improved, then that can at least explain this game a bit more. But, I mean, Underwood's clearly not ready for that moment. Just not ready. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not throwing Underwood under the bus either because, again, he's young. And, I mean, it's his second game, in college football. And your second game's at Oklahoma against an actually seemingly good Oklahoma team. Not easy, but, yeah, got to pump the brakes on Michigan. Not a great performance from them at all. Definitely disappointed in their play. Oklahoma, a great performance. They did a really good job. Except the mistakes. They should have won by more. Then this game here, another game that was really frustrating. Iowa State. Iowa's not good. I mean, they're just flat out not good. And Iowa State almost gave them this game. I don't know, again, if that speaks to the Big 12, because Iowa State's win over Kansas State is looking worse and worse. That game ain't even looking like a good win anymore. So is Iowa State legitimately good? Again, they're the Big 12. It's tough to say if they're really good because none of the teams are all that great. Iowa is trash on offense still. Their offense is still trash. Like, Gronowski is terrible. Not good. They all they got is running the ball and short dump-off throws. I mean, they wonder why, Charlie Jones left for Purdue when they had Braum still. It's like they can't get good receivers because if you're a good wide receiver, why in the world would you play for Iowa? It's like makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense at all. It's like getting a size 15 bowling ball when you got tiny hands. You know what I'm saying? It's just Iowa is just bad. Like they're that's why people look at that game, like the Cyhawk, and it's like, okay, it's a big rivalry game, but does anybody ever say like it's a great rivalry game? No, because it's just the game is not interesting to watch. I watched a lot of this game because of the fact, unfortunately, Illinois Duke started to crumble. So I was watching this game, and I was also watching a lot of Indiana, as well. Indiana, Kennesaw State. I even had Mark Rogers himself tell me that I'm probably one of the only people on planet Earth watching that game, and I take that very pridefully. I appreciate that, Mark. I really do. So, yeah, but I was watching the Cyhawk game, and Iowa sucks. Like, legitimately just horrible. Appreciate the $9.99 super sticker, Godfather of the SEC. Appreciate you for being here always. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm on a roast right now. I'm not trying to, but Iowa State should have won this game by more, and I cannot believe they let Iowa hang around. Rocco Becht, I think his final stat line, he only had like 100 yards. Like, that's it. And I know people are talking about Iowa's defense. I mean, I know Indiana's going to be playing on the road at Iowa in a few weeks. I know that, and if Iowa wins, I got to eat crow, eat all, whatever. But the only reason Iowa wins, and while they could beat Indiana, I'm not picking that, but while they could beat Indiana and they can beat teams like Iowa State is because Iowa has a ceiling of where their schematics work. And I think most people see this. Iowa has a ceiling when they're playing an 8-4 type of program or worse-ish. And even if Iowa State goes like 10-2, I mean, if they were in the SEC, they would not go 10-2. I'm just saying like an average to maybe slightly good program. Then their defense and their style of mucking the game up and slowing it down and bully ball and I formation and all that kind of crap, it works. They can win. That's why they were kings of the West for so long. Going 8-4, 9-3, and barely beating Wisconsin and Minnesota and Purdue and all Nebraska, all those teams. They just barely win. That's what they do. But then when they play anybody better than that, they get the doors blown off of. They get destroyed. Because their style of play only can go so far. It only works for teams kind of at their level or worse. And anybody better than that, they've got no shot. I mean, back when they beat Ohio State in 2017, when they had Stanley at quarterback, they were something back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know people say, well, college ball's changed and Ohio State's more loaded than they were then. Ohio State was still loaded back then. And Iowa beat them. Iowa was more competitive back then. It's not like their offense was that much better. But they were just more competitive back then in the mid 2010s. Now they're just so boring, so bad, so garbage that they can only beat certain teams. And they can only beat up to a certain level. And any team above this level, this imaginary line, they get smoked. Like, for example, they were showing, I saw a stat on Twitter earlier today where Iowa's like last 11 ranked games that they've played, they've gotten blown out in like 10 of them. Or like their last 10 ranked games. They're 0-10 in their last 10 ranked games. But besides this game and like one, I think they barely lost to Missouri in a bowl game a couple years ago or something like that. They were ranked. But other than that, like the vast majority of Iowa ranked opponents that they've played, they've gotten destroyed. They just can't compete against the upper echelon of anything in college football. Their style of play only goes so far. And Kirk Ferentz, he's had a long, great, illustrious career, and he deserves praise, and he's done great things at a program that, you know, Iowa has a ceiling. But at the same time, man, I just kind of wish Iowa was a little bit more interesting to watch sometimes, man. Just something, it's kind of like Wisconsin. We had the faded dreams of Wisconsin being a vastly improved, you know, offense with Fickle, and it's never materialized. It's the same thing with Iowa. It's just the same old, new season, same old Iowa, as you said, Hummus, no better. And Iowa State, again, not the best showcase for the Big 12. Not the best showcase for the Big 12 at all whatsoever, that they barely beat Iowa. Now, they got the demon off their bat. They beat Iowa for the first time at home since 2011. They finally did it, just in very unimpressive fashion. But we got Jackson coming in for a $5 super chat. May we see you go live again this week, please. I appreciate that, Jackson. I will try to go live again this week. If we reach the super chat goal, I will guarantee go live again this week. But I will try to, regardless, or, you know, if I can't do a prediction stream, I'll do a video. But do appreciate all your guys' support. But if we make the super chat goal, I'll definitely will go live this week. But I do appreciate Godfather's super sticker and Jackson, your super chat. Appreciate all the love and support. Appreciate that, Jackson. Can't wait to get into more of these games. Like I said, might open up the phone line, but we'll see how it's going. But to move on from Cyhawk, probably the best performance for a Big 12 team today, Baylor. They beat SMU. Now, a bad showcase for the ACC, ranked SMU at home, and literally Baylor kind of took over SMU Stadium. Not completely, but SMU historically we know as a terrible home crowd base. Like, we know that Dallas, they have a lot of other sports. Not great, right? So SMU just never has great fan support. But, man, Baylor showed up, and they were down. I don't know if people saw it. And you'll know what I'm talking about when I start discussing this play. But I saw one of the most egregious plays ever in this game. One of the worst calls by a referee ever. Did anybody see the Baylor guy on the return, right? Where it should have been kick-catch interference. Right? Should have been kick-catch interference. But then they reversed that and ended up calling an illegal block in the back because the Baylor guy got creamed. Then they ended up calling a legal block in the back on the fumble recovery by SMU, and SMU got the ball. I don't know if anybody saw that. I don't know if I explained that very well, but if you know if you saw that game. I know nobody probably was watching the CW, but I saw this play, and Baylor fans were losing their mind. And I'm glad Baylor won this game just because of that play, because that was one of the worst calls ever. It felt like, man, the refs were just playing around at that point. I don't know what they were doing. That was a trash call. You have to see it to believe it to understand it. It was horrible. So SMU, I got nothing against you. Hope Kevin Jennings is okay because he got banged up late in the game. But, man, Baylor, I was so happy that they won. I wish Scotty B was here as well because he's our resident Baylor fan. He's not in the chat right now, but if Scotty B shows up, he would be talking about that play. But good for his Baylor Bears that they won because they had that tough loss to Auburn week one. But turning around, Dave Aranda getting a big win. Again, bad look for the ACC, but a good win for the Big 12. They needed it. And a double overtime. Fun game as well. And SMU missed a field goal as well to lose in double overtime, which is kind of hilarious. A&M, Utah State, not much to say. Surprising A&M gave up 22, but other than that, not much to say. Ole Miss, Kentucky. Kentucky started out good. The real MVP, if he's here, he'll probably be frustrated. But I will say, when watching this game, Kentucky tried. They did the best they could. I think they were up 10-0. But Ole Miss, I mean, they didn't want to lose to them again. You could tell, like, Lane Kiffin's like, all right, we lost to them last year. It ruined our playoff chances. We can't lose to them again. And they got it together, and they won. I don't really know what to say about this game, though. It was just kind of a whatever game, which sounds kind of crazy because we really didn't have a lot of great games today, like among high-quality teams. We had a lot of games like Baylor SMU that were great. And, this is like an SEC game. I guess one of the headline matchups. It was on ABC at 3:30. It was just kind of like a whatever game. I don't really think a lot of people are talking about this game. I don't think most people think Ole Miss is actually a playoff contender either. So does it have a lot of stakes? I don't know. Kentucky, most people, I guess, just thought they were going to be horrible, which they probably are, but they tried. And the fans showed out pretty well for Kentucky, but like I said, I don't really know what to say. This is just kind of a game I don't really have a lot of thoughts of. Ole Miss got revenge on them. They won. Neither team looked all that great. I think Ole Miss has a shot to be a fringe top 25 team all year like they currently are in Kentucky. Mark Stoops has a lot of work to do. I think he's got a better shot than Gundy of fixing Kentucky, but he's got a lot of issues with that roster. He's trying, but just not all that good. Now, a team that was very good today was our Alabama Crimson Tide. Wow. 73-0. I just did a whole breakdown over on Alabama, the Voice of College Football, on the postgame show, but I will talk about this game again. We were great in all facets. Offense, defense, special teams, effort, man. Effort from Alabama was absolutely just immaculate. You really can't do any better than what Alabama just did. And I understand it's UL Monroe, but we did not have a repeat of 2007. And Kalen DeBoer, whatever, the player meeting that Alabama had, the players-only meeting, whatever DeBoer said, whatever, it worked. Alabama got it together. They got it together, and they absolutely destroyed UL Monroe. And even if Alabama's not going to be a playoff team this year, which, I mean, I think this result has to instill some confidence that they could be, but I'm not ready to go that far and say Alabama's going to be really good or anything. But, hey, great performance from Alabama. So impressive, man. I mean, like Hummus said, what else can you say? They came out hungry. That's a great sign. I mean, that's all we needed to see from Alabama today, was that they were going to play harder. And not only did they play hard, they played great. So that's even better. Yeah, get rid of the penalties and get some more sacks, because we didn't have any today. And I mean, that about be as perfect as you can get. Our special teams looked good. Everything was crisp. Simpson, a record 17-17 completions. No Alabama quarterback ever done that starting out in the game and finishing off like that. Keelan Russell looked good. Austin Matt looked good. The whole team was great. Running backs, receivers. Love the performance from Alabama and hope it carries over to the rest of the season. Tennessee blew out East Tennessee State. Not a lot to say there. Indiana, who fell 3 spots for beating Old Dominion, which I think was trash, blew out Kennesaw State. They look good today. And with some teams losing ahead of them, like SMU and Michigan and Florida and Arizona State, Indiana should be moving right back up a few spots with this great performance. If they get passed by other teams, that's not right. I don't care that Indiana's not a big fan base and a big team. They actually do have a big fan base. It's just, well, they have a big alumni base. It's just more of them got to become IU fans. A lot of them are still not there yet, but Signetti's building. Very impressive performance from Indiana. One more tune-up game next week for a big showdown week 4. Indiana still got some things to clean up. So still a couple defensive miscues, a few offensive miscues, but really like this performance from Indiana. Texas Tech blew out Kent State. Kent State's really bad, so not a lot to say there. A lot of people are saying Texas Tech looks really good, but they got to play somebody first. Kind of like Indiana. They got to play somebody first, too, before we can really judge how good they are. Then Utah, man, blowing out Cal Poly. Utah, hey, I will say UCLA looks like trash, and Cal Poly's not good, but maybe Whittingham's got a squad, and presumably his final year of college football as a coach. We'll see whether it is or not, but he looked good. His team looked good today. Then moving on, Minnesota blows out Northwestern State. Northwestern State's bad. NC State, Virginia. I picked NC State. just because this game was at home. Both teams are not good. Both teams are not good. Chandler Morris, who I believe used to be at TCU, North Texas, maybe. I don't know. He was at a Texas school. But Chandler Morris, man, he threw a really bad interception late in this game for Virginia that sealed the game. This middle to low tier ACC, man, they're bad, man. That's all I can say. I'm sorry. But, like, you look at Syracuse here. Pittsburgh beat Central Michigan. Okay, that's all right. Then you got Syracuse beating UConn 27-20 overtime. I picked Syracuse, but, man, they almost let me down. These teams are just bad. They're not good at all whatsoever. Jackson says, is Mississippi State this year's Indiana? No. But, it could happen, Jackson, but no. Not at all. Now, if it did happen, it'd be a great story. Oh, another team that went from 3-9, 2-10, whatever, to the playoffs. But I hope to the, whatever you want to hope, man. To the good Lord up above, it does not occur. I do not want another Indiana. Indiana is the Indiana. But that is hilarious, Jackson. I mean, you never know. Until Mississippi State loses, the dream's alive, right? If they get ranked for beating Arizona State, that's unreal. Because I don't know if Arizona State is literally the 12th best team in the country. So should Mississippi State be ranked now? I would say no, but you never know. They probably are going to be ranked. We got a $1.09 on Super Chat from Godfather. Appreciate the love and support. Appreciate it, Godfather. Appreciate that, Jack. I really do. That is hilarious, man. I mean, now that I'm going to have that in my head now all week. So hopefully I'm now pulling for Mississippi State to have a good year, probably for Mississippi State fans. Get those cowbells shaking, but no playoffs. We cannot have that. So, yeah, like I was saying, though, ACC, these mid-tier programs, just not all that good. Jacksonville State beat Liberty. I mean, I'm just scrolling through. None of these games really matter. Kansas, Missouri. I picked Kansas. This was the other game I was wrong in today. I picked Kansas. So I was wrong with Kansas. I was wrong with Arizona State. Kansas looked good early. Jalen Daniels started out really good. I think Kansas was up like 14-0, but then Missouri got it together. And people are pointing out Penn State transfer quarterback Bo Pribula is looking good. He's looking very good for Missouri. I don't like the fact that Missouri gave up as many points as they did, and that can go for Kansas as well. There was a lot of offense in this game. Defense was a little sketchy, but hey, at the end of the day, Missouri got the win at home over a Kansas team that does look pretty improved. So, you know what? I'm going to give Missouri a little bit of slack. And I think Kansas could, still be a solid team in the Big 12, especially because the teams at the top of the Big 12 aren't looking all that great. I think Kansas could be a factor in the league if Jalen Daniels stays healthy. That's always the caveat. But, like I said, good win for Missouri. In the border war, the return of the border war, I hadn't had that game since 2011, I believe. So, kind of crazy. I was going with Kansas. I thought Kansas would get it done. I thought Jalen Daniels would get it done. And they started out great, but Missouri, they got it together. I picked Fresno over Oregon State. I'm not a believer in the Pac-2. I think the Pac-2 stinks really bad, and I think the new Pac-12 is going to stink really bad, but that's just the world we live in right now. The Pac-12 is dead. It is dead to me because you see results like this. Fresno State beating Oregon State. Fresno State's not even good. They're not the same team when they had Kalen DeBoer back in 2020. They're not good at all. And Oregon State lost on their own field, and they got shellacked last week to Cal, who lost like their entire starting lineup. So, yeah, not good at all for Oregon State. Georgia Tech blew out Gardner-Webb. Cincinnati won, so good for them. Moving on. Colorado, nobody cares. That's what Stephen Cherry was looking for earlier. I mean, this game should not have been on Fox. It should have been on FS2. I mean, just not a quality game at all. Colorado was not very impressive against Delaware, which I now believe is actually a FBS program. They aren't playing like an FBS program. Colorado won. Good for Dion, but this game should not have been on Fox, and it was not interesting at all, and I don't think anybody watched it besides Dion fans. Moving on from that, Texas State UTSA was interesting, high-scoring game where Texas went to overtime, beat Western Michigan. Wisconsin struggled early against Middle Tennessee, but they ended up winning 42-10. So I don't know if that score is deceptive or not. Because like I said, Wisconsin early was really struggling, but hey, they did end up winning comfortably. So Ohio, West Virginia. So sorry for Mountaineer fans and Joey Foster. I picked Ohio. I went heavy upsets today. Because, I mean, when you got these type of slates early in the season where you got these spreads of like 6 or 5 and the team's favored, and I mean, West Virginia didn't look good in week 1, you got to go with Ohio, right? Ohio barely lost to Rutgers last week. I think Rutgers probably better than West Virginia at this point. So, you know what? Plus, Ohio was on the road against Rutgers. They were at home here. If it was in country roads, I probably would have gone Mountaineers. But it was at Ohio. Such a weird scheduling quirk there for West Virginia to go up to Ohio. We saw a lot of this. UNC played at Charlotte. A lot of these teams were playing on the road. I don't really understand that. But West Virginia went to Ohio. And Ohio won. Their fans were pretty good. Like, there were West Virginia fans there, but the Ohio fans showed out. And they are very close together. I think they're like 90 minutes apart. So these two universities are very close together. I mean, it's not like this is like a brewing rivalry or anything, but, you know, they're close proximity. But, man, I don't know. I just went with Ohio. I'm not impressed with West Virginia. Rich Rod's got a lot to do. It's his first year back at West Virginia, and he's got a lot to do to, you know, turn it around. But nobody's going to fire him or anything. It's not like he's cooked, but that's not a good performance against Ohio. A pretty good MAC team, a team that could win the MAC. But it's the MAC. Wow, West Virginia losing. Wyoming 31-7 over Northern Iowa. Rutgers won. Wake won. Arkansas won. Arkansas, like, going down the list, I mean, none of these games matter at all. ECU beat Campbell 56-3. I mean, that's how bad Campbell is. Carolina, Bill Belichick got his first win against Charlotte, and they held Charlotte to 3, but Charlotte is pretty bad. Army beat Kansas State. Kansas State stinks. Kansas State is fraudulent. This is why preseason rankings don't matter. Kansas State starts out 17th in the country, and look where they are. Look where they have fallen here. I mean, this is bad, man. Like, Kansas State's 1-2 now. They barely beat North Dakota. They've lost to Army, lost to Iowa State. Avery Johnson's looking bad. They don't have Dylan Edwards, I know. I've seen some Kansas State fans say, well, we don't have Dylan Edwards. Is one guy going to matter that much against Army? I can't believe it, man. Army lost to Tarleton State last week. Keep that in mind. Army lost to Tarleton State and then turns around and beats Kansas State. And I do believe that now Army is 3-0 against Kansas State because I looked up earlier in the week that Army was 2-0 historically against Kansas State. Now, granted, their 2 wins came, I think, pre-Bill Snyder. Kansas State. So Kansas State was bad back then, but still, that's nuts. Kansas State's bad. They're not good. And, yeah, it's a long season, and they can turn it around. Yeah, Will Howard for Avery, I know. It gets funnier by the week. I mean, honestly, I ain't going to lie. You know, I was trying to defend Avery. I mean, Avery at times has been okay, but the team just looks bad. And Avery Johnson's just not good enough to be able to overcome that, obviously. So, pretty rough. Can't believe Kansas State. Never would have thought Kansas State would have started out 1-2 like this. You know, like, I had them losing to Iowa State. But then I thought, you know, hey, they'll blow out North Dakota. They'll beat Army. You know, you probably think they'd be 2-1 right now. Probably still fringe top 25. But no, they're bad. They're legitimately terrible. And they got a lot to do. Kleiman's got a lot to do to turn that thing around for them to even be competitive in the Big 12 at this point because they do not look good. Houston did not play with their food. They knocked out food. UCF won. I always love that Josh Pate line, by the way, with the food. It just cracks me up. Moving on from that, we got Colorado State really struggling against Northern Colorado. That's rough. Memphis won. Tulane won in a close game. Auburn beat Ball State. Auburn's taking care of business so far. Beat Baylor, who beat SMU. Auburn beating Ball State heavily. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say Auburn's good. I'm not, but Auburn might be better this year. But we need to see them in the SEC. We need to see them in the SEC first. This game here was weird. I don't know if anybody saw this, but Virginia Tech was beating Vanderbilt 20-7. Never scored again. Vandy, I think 37 unanswered points, or it was at least like 34. It was either 20-10 or 20-7. But essentially, Vanderbilt just completely took over the game in the second half. And Diego Pavia one of the most underrated quarterbacks in college football, even though he's gotten a lot more hype recently. But that guy played great. Vanderbilt, not going to be a factor in the SEC title conversation or anything. But hey, Vanderbilt 44-20. I mean, good win against Virginia Tech, a team that's not that good, a team that is still long removed from the Frank Beamer days. But hey, it's a good win. That's a win on the road in a pretty tough environment. So, hey, I mean, Vanderbilt, I did pick Vanderbilt as well, so they pulled through for me. Nebraska blew out Akron. Good for them. USC won. Michigan State beat BC in 2 overtimes. I believe I did pick Boston College. That was another game I got wrong, I think. I'm pretty sure I picked BC. But this game was back and forth. These two teams, I mean, it was a competitive game last year. Neither team's very good. I mean, people were kind of hyping up BC a bit because they got Dylan Lonergan, the former Alabama backup quarterback. And a lot of people still are trying to push for Aiden Childs to be a pretty good quarterback one day. I mean, he's just flawed. I mean, I think he is getting a little better, but he's just a very, very, very flawed quarterback. And like I said, competitive game. If anybody was watching NBC, I watched this game a little bit. It had its moments, but neither team is all that good. But good win for Michigan State. It's a win that Jonathan Smith needed. Purdue beat Southern Illinois, not that impressively. Coastal won, not that impressively. We're getting toward the end, I think, of the games. Yeah, I think that's basically it. That's basically the last game. It's a couple more, but not that significant. Yeah, like Hummus said, BC Sparty was entertaining. I mean, it was a good game. These type of weeks where you don't have a lot of headline matchups, you get really entertaining games among smaller schools. Baylor, SMU, BC, Michigan State, they give you good games. Watch those type of games, right? They're entertaining, very, very fun games. I watched a ton of those type of games today. Almost more than the headline game. So it was a lot of fun. Just doesn't mean those teams are actually all that good. So, I mean, those are basically all my thoughts of all the games that have occurred. I'm going to put the StreamYard link in for a bit. We got a pretty good crowd right now. And we got another 99-cent super chat or super sticker from Godfather of the SEC. Appreciate that, Godfather. But we got the StreamYard link in. I'm not going to be live for long. I know I've said that in the past. But if we got callers, especially if it builds up, pretty short calls for everybody. Not going to stay live for too long. But do appreciate everybody for being here. We got a pretty good crowd. Appreciate all the super chats, you guys, the super stickers. But yeah, it's a good week of college football. I mean, it's for me and for you guys, it's a good week of college football because any week is a good week for college football. Unless literally every game is trash, it's always a good week. There was entertainment. There were good games on our TVs. There wasn't a lot of headline matchups. There wasn't a lot of games that influenced the playoffs, but still, it was fun. I enjoyed watching football today. A lot of good games. And honestly, a couple of games did impact the playoffs. Like Florida, Florida losing. I mean, now they got a lot to do to get back. But in the hunt, in the race, in the conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's just a good week. I mean, a lot of good results from a lot of, teams, and it was just overall, pretty fun to watch. Obviously, there's going to be way better weeks to come. Next week's got way better games, more headline games. And beyond that, when you get into conference play, every week you're going to have at least 2 or 3 really big, really important games out of the Big Ten or the SEC or even the ACC. The Big 12, if a couple teams can kind of separate themselves, might give you a really big headline. It matters for the playoffs type of game. But I do like these type of weeks too, where you don't really have that. Because honestly, sometimes I just like watching a football game where I don't hear the word playoffs. Like BC Sparty. None of those teams are like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs. No. Nobody's thinking that, but it's you know what? You got a good game on. And it's a game that I don't care who wins, even if I pick BC and they don't win. I don't care. It's just a good game. It doesn't always have to be about the playoffs. Sometimes you like watching Army, Kansas State muck it up. That's an ugly game. Both teams look like trash, but it's fun. Or Syracuse, UConn. That's the kind of games I like. So, I know for a lot of people, like I said, And you want those big headline matchups. And I'm not a person like I don't want to like accuse like, oh, you're a casual if you only like big games. I mean, sometimes people need bigger matchups to catch their attention. Maybe they're busy in life. Maybe they got other interests and hobbies or whatever. And it takes a really big matchup to be like, hey, I'm going to sit down for 3 hours and watch a game. But when you are a really big diehard fan, you're going to sit down every week and watch these games and analyze them and talk about them. And, I mean, going through all these games, I mean, I did not physically, literally watch every single one of these games. I did not see them all. But I kept up with them. I watched as many of them as I could. And it's like, so I can talk about them to you guys. I like doing this. I like talking about these games. I like watching these games, analyzing these games. And it's just for so much fun with you guys because you got the season. And as it progresses and how teams change and some are getting better, some are getting worse, it's just fun. It's awesome. It's great. I mean, it's almost nothing better. I mean, I enjoy other things too besides college football. Some people like it's their only hobby. You'll see some people like Twitter profile be like, "Oh, sports is my life," which that's fair. I mean, especially if that's literally your entire livelihood, right? Like if you made your entire livelihood out of that. Absolutely, I get it. But I mean, even if that was the case for me, I still like football, but I like other things too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of that even makes sense, but I'm just basically it all boils down to is I enjoy college football. I enjoy a lot of other things too, but I enjoy college football, and that's why I do this. That's why I've been doing this now for my YouTube channel I've had for over 3 years now. I'm not going to stop doing it. I mean, if I'm busy and there's times I can't post. There's times I can't go live because, life happens. But, I'm always trying to be here with you guys, talking college football, college basketball, NFL, whatever. And I appreciate all your guys' support. I've been so grateful for all you guys. I mean, we've had, so many, new faces come along the way, get to know you guys. I mean, like, it's so great when, I go live and I see you guys in the chat. Like, I know what your response are going to be. It's great when you're watching a game. It's like, oh my gosh, I know Stephen Cherry's thinking this probably, or, oh, Hummus is thinking that. Godfather's probably like, oh man, what's going on with Bama against Florida State? It's great. I love that. You have that community feel. And, when I first called into Mark Rogers as the voice of college football, that's what I love about that as well. Mark Rogers is such a fantastic community. I love it a lot. It's awesome. And I'm glad to be doing Alabama, the voice of college football. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm so appreciative of that. And I appreciate, just having my own channel as well that I started 3 years ago. Getting closer to 3,000 subscribers. And I could be talking all day long to dead air, to nobody. But you guys being here, providing your guys' thoughts and your guys' feedback on whatever's going on in the college football world and what I'm talking about, it makes for such a great time. And again, I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you guys more than you can ever know. Again, appreciate the super sticker from Godfather and the super chats from Jackson. Appreciate it a lot. But yeah, I'll stay live for a few more minutes to see if we get any calls. But if not, I'll probably be wrapping up the show soon. But I mean, big takeaways from this week is that, I mean, not a whole lot has changed, in the grand scheme of things for the playoffs. The teams won that were supposed to win. You look up and down the board, Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Georgia, Miami, Oregon, Texas, all of them won. Clemson struggled, but they won. Illinois, they won. All these teams won. You go down the line, like Arizona State lost, Florida lost, Michigan lost, but somebody had to lose in that game. But like most of the teams that are like in the hunt for the playoffs got it done. So it's like that's just kind of where we're at. Not a whole lot has changed this week in the grand scheme of things. It's going to get crazier next week. And I can't wait to break down next week's games. Like I said, try to either go live, hopefully with Will and D sometime next week for that, or, I'll do like a video like I do with my NFL prediction. I did my NFL week 1 predictions. I'm so far 1-1 there. I picked the Philly game, right? I picked the Eagles, but I picked the Chiefs. I wish I had picked the Chargers, but I picked the Chiefs. But it's going to be interesting to see how the NFL goes tomorrow or today. It's already Sunday morning, but yeah, definitely crazy there. But yeah, not a lot has changed in college football, but a lot of great games, underrated little games like BC, Michigan State. I love those type of games. And I did talk trash about some teams, but it's more so just because it's disappointing. Iowa State won, but wasn't all that impressive. You know what I'm saying? Just some of these games, just not great. Arizona State losing to a bottom dweller SEC team, not great. Bad looks for the Big 12. Appreciate that, Steven. Salute. And we got Hummus here, so we appreciate you, Jeffrey. Always give good taste. I appreciate that, Hummus. I appreciate it a lot. And that's another thing. I respond to every single comment I've ever had on my YouTube channel. Every single comment. Like on my videos and shorts, people comment. I've had so many people say, oh, like horrible pick, blah, blah, blah. I respond to it. I respond to everybody. Now, you know, I can't say that'll be the case forever. You know, like you see people with 800 billion comments, right? You can't respond to every comment. But as of now, so far, I respond to every comment I've ever had on my channel because I appreciate every single person that has taken the time to watch and comment on my videos and live streams. Because again, if not without you guys, as much as I love doing this, I mean, still will watch college football, but you know, you guys make this so great, and I appreciate it so much. So I just, you know, definitely always, if you guys watch my videos and comment, I'll respond if I can. You know, again, you never know in the future. I mean, I don't know. You know, if I got so many comments, it'd be hard to respond to, but I do respond to every comment I've ever had on a video, so appreciate that as well. I always love Hummus, your takes on some of my videos. It's I appreciate that. Stephen Cherry said Washington looks improved. Definitely, Washington has looked pretty good from what I believe. What was their final score today? I think they played today because I went through every game. But yeah, Washington I think's looked better. I mean, you know, a lot of teams haven't looked all that good, but I think Washington's on now. That's probably why. Let me see. Let me see what Washington's doing. Not really looking at the late games right now because nothing really interests me. These late games are kind of bad. Like you got San Diego State, Washington State right now. They're up by 16. So the Pac-2 might get a win today. Good job for Washington State in the late third. You never know, though. That game isn't over. Then we got Stanford, BYU. BYU completely obliterating Stanford because Stanford is probably the worst Power 4 team. It could be Oklahoma State. It could be Purdue. I don't know. But Stanford's bad. Like, they're really bad. 42-10 Washington. And it's early third. Yeah, a lot of people are high on Williams, too. Jonah Coleman's a good bat. Yeah, they got potential. Yeah, Washington's got potential. They showed flashes last year. So, definitely. Washington could actually be good. I mean, Jed Fish, a lot of people are still high on him, even though, you know, the season wasn't that great last year. But he's good. Wisconsin, a must-win for Alabama. I mean, again, it's just so hard to say. I would probably say yeah on this one. With the Florida State game, I said no. A lot of people were saying that's a must-win. I said it wasn't because Alabama could have legitimately lost, which they did, and still make the playoffs. They could still make the playoffs. I'm not betting for that to occur. I don't think that's going to occur still as of this time. Even though I did predict Alabama to go 10-2, that was not with a Florida State loss, but they did lose. But they still could make the playoffs. They still could turn it around. A loss to Wisconsin would pretty much eliminate it all. Because then you'd have to beat Georgia, South Carolina, Auburn, all the other tough opponents on their schedule, Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee. I mean, it would pretty much be impossible. So, yeah, it is a must-win, at least in regards to making any attempt at the playoffs, and also like any possible chance of at least going 9-3. And if Alabama goes worse than 9-3, then DeBoer is very hot in his seat, and probably the fans are going to be livid and maybe never recover from being completely furious at him. So I would say that yes, Wisconsin is a must-win. I'm more confident Bama will do fine in that game based off the performance they had today. But I would say so. And then we got Stephen Cherry saying, I was here when you only had a few followers. I appreciate that, Stephen. Yeah, you've been here a long time. I mean, 3 years is a long time. I remember when I started doing it. It feels kind of short, but it feels like a long time too. But I appreciate this, Stephen, definitely. But we got Hummus Hero. Before I was about to wrap up the show, we got Hummus Hero coming in here. How's it going, Hummus?
Hey, Jeffrey. It's going all right. It's a good day of football, like you said. Not anything that would wow you when you looked at it, because like you guys were doing your previews earlier in the week, and it's like, nothing really. You know, you had the one top 20 game, and that was about it. But it ended up being, sometimes these weeks are more entertaining because, like you said, you'll find kind of like a Michigan State, BC, or SMU, Baylor. It's kind of like a diamond in the rough game. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, when you don't really want to just throw out like the casual fans or even people that are kind of like semi diehard fans, but maybe they just don't watch every game or have time to, like some people do that literally analyze and watch every game. But I just stress it every week when you have like a week like this, it isn't as good, not to overlook these kind of lower tier games because you can get really great games. The playoffs have just kind of made it where everybody's like, okay, if it's not a big game, if it's not two ranked teams that are in contention for the playoffs, then I don't care. And I just think you're missing out. It's like I watched Baylor SMU. That game was crazy. It had lead changes, swings. It was nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State, Boston College, those type of games for sure. I mean, absolutely agree. I mean, I think that games like, Oklahoma, Michigan that get hyped up, for every game that lives up to the hype, of two ranked teams, you have five of them that stink. Like there's a lot of high quality matchups that end up being terrible. Most of the quality matchups today weren't good. Most of them.
Yeah. Well, one thing also is that as a completely diehard fan, Buckeye fan, it kind of these weeks I kind of enjoy more because I know that I'm not gonna like stress out over the game and like potentially have it ruin my day, like or ruin my whole week. In reality, like shit, if it's Michigan, it might ruin half a year. But knowing that when I'm watching the other games, like I love it when Ohio State plays early too, and then they win, and then I can watch the rest of the games and really enjoy it. But I kind of appreciate the weeks without it as a fan, So I don't know if other people feel that same way, but I just get too stressed out. Like that's the one thing I love football, but man, sports they can do that to you. They can become unhealthy. Like they really can.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I love getting like really like amped up for big games with my favorite teams like Alabama, Indiana, stuff like that. But I try not to get too crazy with it because you can get legitimately stressed out. Like it's wild how much you care about this. Like these games, this sport. It matters. Like because we love it, and there's so many reasons to love it, but it can be unhealthy. It can be. I mean, if you think about it, it really can be, especially like if you're that stressed, like it's impacting your health, like literally. I mean, it's wild to really think about that, but it is true. And I think there is something to be said about that. Like today, Alabama's playing UL Monroe, Indiana's playing Kennesaw. They're going to win.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching the other games, like what's going on. I mean, I watched a lot of Alabama because of doing the post game on Alabama Boys College football. Like I got to know what's going on, and I watched a good bit of Indiana, but I watched a lot of Iowa State, even though the game was boring, and I watched a couple other games in the new window as well as watching Indiana. But I wasn't concerned about Indiana. So like you said, you just have that no stress at all, and you can really enjoy the other games. I mean, Ohio State playing Grambling. I don't know how much of the game you watch, but I know there are a lot of Buckeye fans that literally watch the entire game. And I'm like, you're missing out on the other games, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, I couldn't watch the beginning. I missed like the good portion of the first quarter because my nephew had a soccer game, and I went to that, and then I came back, and then at the end of the game, I wanted to make dinner. So like I was listening to it, and I was kind of paying attention, but like I watched the middle of it basically, and I don't know. But I was trying to watch other games too. Like the beginning of the day before I went to the soccer game, I was trying to watch Illinois and Duke because I thought that was going to be a really good game, and it was really competitive, and I think it was kind of misleading. I was surprised when I got back from the soccer game that Illinois was up that much because it was like really competitive when I left. It was like halftime, and it was really close. I think it was a little bit misleading the final score. I don't think it was really indicative of what a good game it was for the majority of the game. I think it must have got out of hand late. I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think even like late third, early fourth, it was still like a 10-point game. It was pretty close. But
It was pretty good.
Illinois blew it open at the end.
I think those are two pretty decent teams. I think Illinois might be. I don't know. I guess it's kind of hard to say. We won't really see until what is their first big game? Indiana. Is that the first
Yeah, they
big game
play
they're going to play?
Indiana on the road, and honestly, the winner of that game, I mean, you can't say that the winner of the game is going to make the playoffs because Indiana could win and still lose to Iowa, Penn State, Oregon, and Minnesota. The winner of that game has a dramatically improved chance of being a playoff team.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't looked at the schedules for sure. I know Indiana has a tougher schedule this year than last year.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think.
much so that I think if Indiana loses twice, they could still make the playoffs. I know some people are like, no, because it's Indiana. If Indiana's 2 losses are at Oregon and at Penn State, and they're like competitive losses, you can't tell me they're not getting in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They would get in.
Yeah, they for sure can, especially. Well, what it would probably come down to is like if they beat Illinois, how does Illinois finish? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. So it'd be like the teams that they win can some of those teams end up quality wins at the end of the year, and then I think they could get in because they're still going to be kind of hurt by not having a marquee non-conference game if it comes down to that. So what they want is they want to beat. I mean, well, really they want to beat Penn State if they could. I don't think they'll be able to beat Oregon. I just think it's a bad matchup game. Oregon just looks really tough too, but I don't know. I don't trust Penn State, honestly. I think that they're always overrated, and for some reason they play Ohio State well, but like I think almost anybody can play with them, and I'm still not a believer in Aller. Like I just don't think he's that great. I don't see it with what everybody else sees. I know people say that they haven't had the receivers, but I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll make a big improvement this year and he'll live up to the potential, but so far I just don't see it. That's just me, maybe, but I don't know. But I think Indiana could. I think Indiana could hang around with Penn State. You never know.
It's possible. I mean, even when Indiana was like really bad in the bad years of Tom Allen, like I think it was 2022, or it might have even been the 2023 year that he fired in the last year. Indiana lost to Penn State by 7. So they've been competitive with Penn State even when they're bad. Indiana usually plays Penn State close. Back when they were good, when they had Ramsey and Penix, they obviously won the 2-point conversion game that everyone still says, Penn State fans say didn't count. And then the year before that, in 2019, they were very competitive at Happy Valley. They were winning like in the third, and then there was like a really garbage targeting that was not called on Whop Phillier. Whop Phillier got creamed, and Indiana should have on that drive, but he fumbled when he got hit in the helmet. And didn't call. That was like the first year of the targeting, and they weren't calling it consistently. And Indiana ended up losing that game, I think, by 7. So Indiana's been very competitive with Penn State. They can play with them. I think the problem is because Indiana's better now that you can't sneak up on them. I think Penn State, Indiana, so many times that's why the games were close.
That's a good point. But I think what it is with Penn State is people kind of have a false perception of because Penn State recruits really well. They recruit really well, but they haven't recruited at an elite level, like in terms of like top 5 classes. They don't recruit like Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia or even probably LSU. Like they just don't. Now they have retained their roster, but what it is that they're kind of in that fringe level where, like if all the pieces fall into place with the way that they recruit, they potentially could win a national title, but we simply haven't seen it happen. And the reality is that like there's a big difference between the way that those top tier teams recruit when they go to play, kind of middle of the pack type teams in terms of roster. Like it's so much harder to beat those top tier teams when they're on their game and the program has cohesion. Like what we're seeing with Alabama, I think still is growing pains, and that's why you're not seeing it because their roster's still really good. And I think that's why you see such a big difference week to week. It's because they need to settle in and find a new identity without Saban. But anyways, getting back to the point, I just don't think that Penn State has been at that point. They maybe were close to that point when they had Saquon Barkley and McSorley and those teams, because they had more elite offensive playmakers. You know, they had Godwin and who's the other receiver that's in the NFL now. They had good receivers. You know what I mean? Like elite receivers, not just good. And until I see that, like you can have a good running game and you can have a solid defense, and most of the time it'll win you tons of games, but like the blueprint that Michigan used, that was just it's really not sustainable for most people. For most programs, it just doesn't work. Like it was kind of a and that's why you had like Durrell saying that it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't happen. Like they beat the odds, and some people say it's partially because they were got an advantage, you know, and all that. But like the reality is, I see Penn State kind of as the same team this year, and I just don't think that that'll happen again. I don't see it happening, but we'll see. Penn State could prove me wrong, and they could win a national title. We'll find out.
It's possible. I mean, I think that this year is about as good as Penn State's going to get because, you know, you've got all these teams around the sport that are so young with their quarterbacks and roster turnover with, you know, Ohio State and Bama and Texas and all these Georgia, that this should theoretically be a great year for them to do that. But the problem is that, like you said, I agree 100% with your point, Hummus, is that there's this gap. There's this, like, between, like, even Alabama where they're at right now, because Saban's gone and the growing pains, and they just kind of look like garbage, you know, at times. Like, they've had the Michigan game last year, Oklahoma, Vandy, and Florida State so far this year. The roster's still there. The roster is still good enough that if Alabama can kick it into high gear, they can literally beat anybody in the country. Anybody. Still. Penn State has this thing where it's like, okay, they show up and they win and they beat everybody that they play, but then when they play the best of the best, they can't do it. They can't win. Yep. It happens every freaking year. They're great. They're like top 5. They recruit like, you know, crazy. They do a great job, but there's just something not there. They just can't break into that little niche elite group that's exclusive. You know, it's so hard to break into that group. Michigan, like you said, did defy the odds because they didn't have the most talented team in the world. And Alabama theoretically should have beaten them. I know they hate to hear it, and I know that me saying that means nothing because Alabama did not win the game that year. But Alabama, with Saban's last year, Milroe fumbling that football completely changed the game. Alabama wasn't even that good that season. Alabama struggled hard and somehow beat Georgia in the SEC title game, and yet they should have beat Michigan, but they gave it away and literally still lost on a goal line stand. Bad play call. That's what it took for Michigan to win. And then they played a Washington team that probably shouldn't have been there, but they were, and it's awesome. And I was happy for Washington because I was a massive Penix fan, obviously, but Washington wasn't even in the same league. So it's like Michigan, it was a very favorable situation, and obviously the signs and whatever, the steal and all, that whole situation, I don't even care about it anymore. It's just it's stupid. But like Michigan won, and it's like, how many teams do win like that with super seniors and guys? Everybody comes back, and you've only got like a couple 5-star guys. You got a few, but Alabama's loaded. It don't happen. Ohio State last year, y'all's team was loaded. And the vast majority of the season didn't even look good. The Nebraska game was bad. The Michigan game was bad. But then when they lost to Michigan, just it clicked. In the playoffs, the roster just it all came together. The whole thing. And Ohio State, the best team roster-wise in college football last year, got it done. But it's like Ohio State has the roster. Georgia and Alabama and Texas have the rosters. And Penn State does not. And Michigan does not. Even though Michigan is got a lot of NIL and they're trying to get there, but they got work to do to get there again. But, there's not a lot of programs that can do it, and Penn State can. I mean, they don't have great receiver talent. Their running backs have not been as good since, Saquon. They've had good running backs, but not great. Their defense, they always have like one or two edge guys or like linebackers that are studs that end up being elite in the NFL, but it's just not enough.
Yep. Yeah, but I think it kind of needs to be a perfect storm, like what we're saying about like with what happened with Michigan that year. It needs to be a perfect storm, and I think the same thing would have to happen with Penn State basically this year. And I think there's another element that needs to occur now, because now it's a larger playoff. So like it needs to be even more sustainable. And I mean, the blueprint that can be there if you play a certain type of football and you give a lot of teams fits, but like it's just, I think the odds are even greater now. Whereas, like you said, like Ohio State last year could play like crap for most of the year, and then the reality is they could just flip a switch. So with teams that have that elite talent, all they need to do now is get hot at the end of the year. So the perfect storm scenario for the teams that are on the fringe, talent wise, I think it's going to become harder and harder, which is maybe not a good thing that people want to hear. You know what I mean? It's probably not a thing unless you're a fan of, one of the teams that really has the money and recruits like at an insane level. You might not like to hear it, but it's probably just reality. Now, I think there still are quite a few SEC teams that could reach that potential for sure. Like, I don't know who it's going to be this year, but the SEC I think is kind of I think it's kind of open ended right now when you're trying to evaluate it. Honestly, like I'm looking at Tennessee, and I don't want to like get caught by fool's gold, thinking that they're like awesome again. But like, I mean, they look pretty good, but they played Syracuse. So we don't really know much about Syracuse yet, and then obviously today they played nobody, but like they look good. So we'll just have to see. And then Georgia didn't look great today, and obviously LSU didn't look good. And now people are questioning LSU's win over Clemson because Clemson looked like crap. So it's really hard to say. I think right now what's going to happen. The SEC I think is kind of the most intriguing conference moving forward to see how it shakes out, because I think it's pretty unknown. I think when you look at the Big Ten, I think you can see right now, like you got Ohio State and Oregon, who are both going to probably finish at minimum top 10, and then Illinois and Indiana might be battling for another playoff spot. And we'll see how Michigan does. If they can recover, they might be in that group too. And then probably Penn State will get into the playoffs, I would assume. So, but with the SEC, I don't really know. I see it as the Big Ten getting 3 for sure, and then potentially a 4th out of that second group. Out of Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, I see potentially one of them getting a 4th spot. But with the SEC right now, I just don't know. I'm looking at all the teams, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know any potential order of finish. I mean, I would assume that Texas is probably going to be okay by the end of the year, because once again their roster is just overpowered, and you'd think that these young guys that by the end of the year will be experienced enough and they'll get the kinks worked out. But I don't know. Well, I think Texas and Georgia would be the safest bets, just based on roster power, but everybody else I'm just not sure. So I'm gonna be interested to see how that conference ends up shaking out. For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like people, still debating the SEC or Big Ten, who's better. It's going to be happening forever, because at this point, the SEC and the Big Ten have such a advantage over every other league that they're going to be the two conferences that get compared. The Big Ten's loaded with NIL, loaded with money, and they've gotten better. But the SEC still just has something that the Big Ten kind of lacks a bit in that. And to me, that the difference is that the average programs in the SEC, the average to bad programs, are still good. sometimes. Like Mississippi State. Maybe they're better, but it's like they beat Arizona State. To me, when you look at the Big Ten, if you take a program at the level of Mississippi State in the Big Ten, like the tier of where we think they are, that you're probably looking at a Rutgers.
Purdue or UCLA.
Probably that level. Like Rutgers is higher up in the Big Ten probably than Mississippi State is theoretically, tier-wise in the rankings of the league. So, yeah, probably UCLA. Arizona probably beats UCLA by 21 plus. And that's the problem. Like, I think the SEC from top to bottom is still better. I just think the top of the Big Ten and the top of the SEC are just neck and neck. I mean,
yeah, I think
the Big Ten's a little bit better right now.
I think tier one of the Big Ten, arguably, well, tier one of the Big Ten, I think, is more stable than the SEC. Like I was pointing out, like so. I think tier one of the Big Ten's more stable. Now, you could say that if the SEC teams reach their peak, that they could still potentially eclipse the top of the Big Ten. But I think tier one of the Big Ten's more stable right now, and then tier two, I think, is rather comparable. You know what I mean? When you look at teams like South Carolina and like Illinois, like we saw how they played last year, I think they're probably pretty comparable. Or in Indiana. You know what I mean? And teams that are in that range, but I don't know. That's why I'm saying it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out because we really don't know what the tier one is in the SEC yet. So, like, they could return to having like 4 or 5 teams that are legit like national title contenders, or maybe we'll see it is only a couple teams this year. So it's kind of new. It's kind of new waters we're venturing into with everything, and because people just don't know like how dramatic the effect of NIL and all this stuff is yet. So we know that the SEC and teams, a few other teams like Clemson and Ohio State used to really stockpile talent, but now we see it is somewhat more evenly distributed between the middles of these conferences. So, but I would definitely agree with you. Like the bottom of the Big Ten is still really bad. But one other thing that we have to remember, though, also is the Big Ten has 2 extra teams. So that has an impact, too. You know what I mean? So, like, anytime you have more teams, eventually you're going to have some that are really, really bad. So, but it'll be interesting to see. So, but the Big 12 clearly looks like really bad. Like
it's bad.
Not that they were good, particularly great last year, but like, at least they had like their top tier was like the middle tier of like, the Big Ten or the SEC. But now it looks like their top tier might be like the 3rd tier. You know what I mean? It's like bad. It's like bad.
Arizona State, again, is like supposedly one of their best teams, and they lost to Mississippi State. And Iowa State, supposedly one of the best teams, barely beat Iowa.
They can barely beat Iowa.
It's just, I know it's a rivalry game, but still, Kansas lost to Missouri. Like, they just don't have anything going for them. SMU, how good they are. Baylor beat them, but it's like Baylor got blown out against Auburn. So it's just, it's looking rough. K-State's trash. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the only team that we could maybe look at in the Big 12 and say potentially they could be good, but once again, it's really unknown, is Texas Tech.
Utah, maybe.
Yeah, Utah.
Good early,
Utah's
yeah.
good, but Texas Tech also. But once again, that's a big leap of faith on Texas Tech because they've looked good and they put up numbers, but like we don't know anything. So, but they did spend a lot, and their roster supposedly improved. So we'll have to see on that. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if potentially what we could be seeing is the same thing that happened in the Big 12 before, is that like the teams that you think are good aren't good, and then the teams that you think are going to be really bad are actually decent. You know what I mean? So like the end of the year, we might look back and say, yeah, K-State's terrible. Arizona State, they did a 180 from where they were at the previous year, but hey, like Texas Tech's good, and Utah's back to being like what Utah usually is. So like, we don't know. Once again, not to have like too dramatic overreactions. I don't think we should. So like, we'll see what happens. It is 1 week, but it definitely wasn't looking good for the Big 12 for the majority of the day. They had a couple bright spots, but like definitely West Virginia losing to Ohio. And I know Ohio is a good MAC school. Like I think they were the champ last year. And obviously they have a little bit better of access to talent just because of there's talent in Ohio, so like their rosters maybe a little bit better than people would think, but still, like West Virginia has no business losing to a MAC school. Like it just looks really, really bad. And I
Absolutely.
feel for the West
I even
Virginia
picked Ohio,
fans.
which is funny. I picked Ohio because I was like, West Virginia looked really bad week 1. But I mean, I thought I would be wrong probably. I was like hoping for Joey Foster, hoping for West Virginia fans. But man,
Yeah,
I'm glad I picked Ohio.
I think they'll learn their. I think West Virginia's going to learn their lesson though. You don't schedule those type of teams on the road. Like I bet you if that was at home, they would have won. That was
Probably.
all the difference that they needed. You don't do a home and home with a MAC school. What do you have to gain by doing that?
Play Kent
Like
State on the road.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But Ohio, it makes things a little bit interesting because now they come to the Horseshoe next weekend, so it'll make it at least a little bit better of a night game. It's always funny. We always play. The Buckeyes only get like one night game a year, I swear. Like maybe two, but usually one, and usually it's like really terrible. It's like a MAC school
Yeah,
or something like that.
it's because Ohio State's the big team. It's the big noon kickoffs because of the contracts. Like I know you know that, everybody knows that, but it's like it sucks because fans want night games, but with the contract that Big Ten has with Fox and the big noon kickoff, they're always going to put Ohio State and big games on there. It's just
Yeah.
the way it is. The NBC game always gets like an averagey game, like an okay game. It's usually not Ohio State.
No, well, the only way that like NBC got Ohio State, Oregon last year, so the only way it happens is if the marquee game for the week is on the West Coast. So
Mm.
if Oregon's going to be playing a home game because they're not going to force Oregon into 9 o'clock local start, because they're just not going to do that. So that's the only time Fox is going to give up the marquee game for the week. So every once in a while you will see CBS or NBC have the choice game of the week, but right now it's probably only going to happen with Oregon because they're the only West Coast team from the Big Ten that's like at that level. So, but we did see it once last year. One time NBC got the best Big Ten game of the week last year, at least once. So, but it'll end up happening. That's the cool thing. I don't really like ESPN, and I was kind of in some ways happy that the Big Ten broke ties with them. But I'll tell you what, I was happy when they gave us a night game in the shoe against Tennessee. Like it's like, hey,
Absolutely. I mean, it makes for a better atmosphere. I mean, people say it, whether it's true or not, like, oh, night games, it's not that much of a difference. I think it is. I think night games add to it, add to the crowd and the atmosphere just that much more. It's just better.
yeah,
And
the atmosphere for
people are
sure.
still kind of a little sleepy. It's just not as great of a crowd. I mean, still with Ohio State, if they're playing a big game, the shoe is loud like any other,
Yeah.
but it's just not the same as it is at night.
Well, it's because the lights and everything. Like you said, it's atmosphere. The crowd can be just as loud during the day. Like I didn't go to the Texas game, but I talked to a lot of people who did, and they said that the Texas game actually was one of the loudest crowds that basically anybody that I talked to had ever been to. So, like it can be just as loud during the day, but like the complete package, you know what I mean? Like the atmosphere. And now they do like the drone show and all that stuff, and it's like
Mm.
you can't do that during the day. So like it's more intensity and more just, the feeling of it. And I remember from going to night games versus day games, yeah, you still have a good experience, but there's just something about it. So I don't know. But I'm sure you've heard this 100 times from Big Ten people complaining about Big Noon. So we'll just
Yeah,
it's it's annoying, but it's the world we live in.
for sure. It's just the contract. It's nothing you can do with it. But, I mean, it gives Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan a prime slot. There's usually not a lot of great noon games, and it makes for the great ratings. It's just, it still kind of sucks because you prefer to have a night game. So, yeah, Indiana gets some night games still because, they're not the headline usually, but, still, like,
Yeah, I
people.
mean, I guess it works out good for other teams, though. It just sucks for Ohio State and Michigan because it's the two biggest draws. So anytime they have the home game, it's almost always going to happen. But like, I guess it works out good for like other teams because then they get like a nice night game and they get to play on NBC. And even if you're at home watching it, like the NBC broadcast, I think is top notch. So, I like it. I like the setup in general. It just sucks if you're a fan of a certain team, but
That's crazy. But,
all right. Well, hey Jeffrey, I think I'm gonna get off of here, man, because I'm starting to ramble. Getting late.
For sure. Yeah, I'll definitely be going to bed soon. But I appreciate you calling, Thomas here. I definitely haven't talked to you in a while, so it was fun chatting it up. And like I said, I always love reading your comments in the chat. I appreciate it. And great job by your Buckeyes today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I try to be civil in the chat too. So
you do great, man. Some people aren't, but it makes for great, discussion as long as it's not too crazy.
Well, you gave me that wrench when when you first started getting a little bit bigger on the live stream, and I always remember now you have this. You can't be a troll whatsoever, or at least very very low level of it. So.
Absolutely, it's like you kind of held to a higher standard. Like I'm a moderator on the Voice of College Football, so I can't say too much.
Yeah. All right, man. But yep, good talking to you, and thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely, Hummus here. Always, definitely. Hope to talk to you again soon.
All right, see you, man.
You have a great night. We had the real MVP, and I think in the waiting room about 5 minutes ago. If you can come back to real if you want, you'll be like the last call of the night if you are able to come back. But if not, I definitely will be going to bed very shortly. But yeah, I saw the realest comment about West Virginia, Kansas State, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and Kansas all look bad for the Big 12. I mean, for sure, the Big 12 was the biggest loser. People see those articles all the time where they got like the biggest winners and biggest losers of the week. Yeah, the Big 12 was the biggest loser of the week. Absolutely terrible. So, I mean, Oklahoma State had to be the biggest just disaster of the day. I mean, a 69-3 loss. I mean, we knew Oklahoma State was bad, and we knew they were going to lose, right? But the thing is that the way they lost, it was the problem. I mean, 69-3. I mean, that is just disastrous. Like, you cannot have that. But yeah, I'll give the real a couple minutes, see if he comes back. Definitely, I hadn't talked to Hummus here in a long time, so it was great chatting with Hummus. But yeah, the real MVP. He's a regular. It's always great talking with him about kind of stuff in college football. The SEC versus Big Ten, the playoff expansion, stuff like that. So we'll see if the real comes back. I love this comment from JT. Penn State's tier 13, and we got Godfather saying Vandy's tier 100. So that's pretty funny. I mean, Vandy used to be tier 100. They were horrible, but Vandy's got a pulse now. Vandy can win. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech. Like, they're not very good, but they blew them out on the road after a rocky start. Call into real. That's funny. And then Loud didn't help the Gators, said JT. Definitely not. I mean, a loud atmosphere doesn't always work. Your players still got to play. If they don't, it's just, it is what it is. But definitely, I probably will wrap it up though. See if we'll get like the real one more minute. But I can't be live too much long. I gotta get some sleep. But it was a great day at college football though. Jack saying, let's get Only Talk Sport to 3,000 subs and 5,000 subs. Yeah, we're getting close. Like I'm like around 250 subs away. We're getting really close, and I appreciate all your guys' support. Like I, started this journey 3 years ago. Did not know I'd be, getting this far. 2,000, 3,000 subs. I mean, I just appreciate it so much. You guys are amazing. Guy Stephen Cherry, I appreciate that. Great show, young fella. JT says Vandy Slater scored from a rental crane. Well, they've made some upgrades, I've heard. They've made some upgrades. That's what winning does, right? Like that SEC money's coming in. They made a few upgrades to Vandy Stadium, I've heard, but I don't know how much. But, now that they have gotten a little bit better, they need to improve further. Goffar says yes. I mean, they still got a lot of work to do to make Vandy something. Like it's still a baseball school, still an academic school, but they're trying. Diego Pavia is helping a lot. Clark Lee, so good for them. JT says keep rocking. Appreciate that. Absolutely. But thanks everybody for being here. Definitely wish we had been able to talk to Darrell, but glad Hummus Hero called in. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the super chats and super stereo from Jackson and Godfather of the SEC. Appreciate it always. You guys are the best. Definitely love talking with Godfather of the SEC. I'll be seeing you Thursday night for another great call-in show on the Alabama channel. Appreciate that, Godfather. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Share the stream out on social media. And what a day it was in college football. Not a lot of big matchups, but it was a lot of fun. I hope everybody's team, did great, even though some did not. But appreciate everybody for being here, and I will see you guys soon.